Hey all, welcome to today's session of Crowe Tech. I'm Ayush, one of the solution architect in the Crowe YHI program. I have spent over 15 years in the ERP industry, working across different areas and helping businesses to streamline their financial and operational processes. With me is Alejandro. We usually call him Ale. Ale, hi. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, Ayush. It's good to see you. Good to talk to you again. And thank you for inviting me to this Crowe Tech podcast. Yeah, my name is Alejandro Alvarez. I am one of the partners responsible for a NetSuite practice here at Crowe. In that role, I usually lead what we call the buy cycle, which is how we advise our customers and our prospects on what are the best tools that they can use for the business. And of course, we love and prefer NetSuite, but our role is really to make sure that they're making the right decision for the business, not the right decision for Crowe. I've been doing NetSuite, or I've been in the NetSuite ecosystem since late 2012, and I've had several roles. I started in doing some testing, and then I moved to project management. I was a solution architect. I've led a couple of small practices, and I've had the pleasure of being here at Crowe since 2019, when the Crowe NetSuite practice started. So I've seen it go through multiple changes. So yeah, super excited to be here, and again, thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Ale, for the amazing introduction. Guys, today we are diving into NetSuite Advanced Revenue Management or ARM, one of the strategic solution for businesses that need to stay aligned with evolving revenue recognition regulations and simultaneously managing complex business use cases. Uh, before going to ARM, LA, it would be great if you can jump in and provide some background on the problems usually faced by the business when it comes to their revenue recognition process and how the
Yeah.
new regulations like ASC 606 and IFRS 15 improving the consistency in the process.
Yeah, no, thank you. Absolutely. It's very important to understand the background. Like, why are we talking about revenue management? Why is revenue management important for businesses? And just to get a little bit of background, before 2014, the revenue recognition process was really it varied. There was no real standard, and around that time, in a project that started in 2002 between FASB, and FASB is the Financial Accounting Standards Boards in the US, and IASB, which is the International Accounting Standard Boards, globally outside the US. They got together and said, how do we unify what revenue recognition means, right? Why is revenue important? Because the way companies recognize revenue obviously affects their financial reports, affects their profitability, which in turn affects stock prices, valuations, and people like you and me's pockets, right? If we're investing in the market and the company's overstating their revenue, and suddenly there's a big surprise, stock prices go down, people lose their jobs, etc. So that's sort of why revenue is important. And back then, everything was done in Excel. Everything was done manually. There were no tools, and different software vendors, including Oracle NetSuite, have been in a race to come up with the best way to manage all ways of recognizing revenue. And we'll get into exactly what that means, the different steps on recognizing revenue. But it's important to understand that part, especially as companies have become over the last 20 years so complex with multiple revenue streams. Whether you're selling software, you're selling services, you're getting paid up front, you're getting paid in arrears. All those different variables keep changing, right? Now with software subscriptions and usage-based billing, all those things affect revenue management, and it was a very reason why this started 23 years ago, this analysis, and ended 11 years ago with the standards that we call ASC 606 for US and IFRS 15 for the International Standards Board.
Right. And exactly, Ale, before these regulations, right? and before the other NetSuite processes, each company, what I have seen, each company and sometimes even different divisions had their own way of recognizing revenue. Due to which definitely there was no consistency. There were so many issues. But now with this new regulations of ASC 606 and IFRS 15, there are 5 steps, right? That includes your contract identification, defining performance obligation, defining the transaction price, allocation process, and obviously revenue recognition. And what I have seen, all this brings a perfect structure and transparency for everyone, for all the business. So
Mm.
whatever the confusion was there, what the things which were making the business more problematic, those things are getting resolved now, and companies are getting good financial statements. What you say?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, those are key facts, Ayush. And I think it's important to also note, who 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 is the stakeholder? Who are the people dependent on correct revenue standards? Who's the audience? Who should be listening to this podcast, right? And we've identified, as we go through our projects, and that's what we're doing here to educate our audience, is there's really three main stakeholders or people that should be listening to this podcast. One is finance leaders, right?
Mm.
Finance leaders are responsible for managing, projecting, reporting, revenue, right? So CFOs, controllers, revenue managers. Revenue managers are a position that didn't exist years ago. Because everything was, standards were already, so you didn't have to manage revenue, you just have to sell, right? They need compliance because they're the ultimate responsibles for recognizing revenue. But also, operations and IT leaders, right? ARM is not only about accounting, it's about systems and processes.
System.
Like you said, like identify the contract, do the performance obligations, right? So fulfilling on a timely basis, packaging, all the things that go into making sure that things happen to align with the standard. And then, as simple as, founders, executives of companies that are creating the vision, revenue and how your financial statements are defined and audited to meet with the standards is important. We see a lot of companies, and you've been doing this for a while too. You see a lot of companies that are running their businesses on QuickBooks. They're running revenue recognition in Excel, maybe, and they are recognizing revenue on a cash basis. And suddenly they get acquired by private equity. They want to go public, and they have to restate all those financials, and that can change the results dramatically, and that can change the valuation dramatically. So, one of the things that, I'm going to hand it back to you is, when people think, well, revenue is predictable. Really? Is revenue really predictable? No, it is predictable until it is not predictable, right? Until you know that it will, that it depends on so many factors, where we're going to fulfill, how long is the contract, what happens if they do returns, all those things that we'll get into over the next 30 to 45 minutes are very interesting things that we'll have to make sure that people understand and know the tools that exist out there with NetSuite and beyond, right, to handle this.
Right, exactly. And one more thing I would like to add here, as you rightly said and rightly highlighted, that when it comes to audiences, right, it's all the financial people, all the C category people, right? But including not only including them, it's all about the ERP managers also these days, who are managing the different ERP, right? Who are looking into the different financial softwares, because revenue is not only for the financial team these days. It is very, very important for the ERP managers who are dealing with different type of businesses, different type of processes, right? So truly agree with you, right? And in context to this, right, I would like to start with a brief on what is the NetSuite ARM, right? We have heard so many things about the ARM, Advanced Revenue Management, right? But I would like to start it from here. So basically, Advanced Revenue Management, it's a NetSuite module, right, designed to automate and manage revenue recognition processes, right? We have seen so many companies, right, who are facing different type of challenges. So ARM helps companies comply with accounting standards such as ASC 606 and IFRS 15, which we have already talked about. Also, ARM automatically allocates revenue across multiple periods of performance obligations. It generates the schedules, it generates the reporting accuracy. So these are the things which helps the organizations, especially who are into different businesses like SaaS industries, who are into cloud industries, right? Who are into digital transformation. And this is how NetSuite ARM is helping to improve their businesses, right?
Yeah.
So what's your take here?
No, exactly. NetSuite ARM is like having those standards in your pocket, right? In a system that does everything for you. All you have to do as a revenue manager, executive, as a controller, is make sure that the business is following those performance obligations, and that the system is configured to all the use cases that you have, right? So that's really, like you mentioned, it takes your contract, call it a sales order, right? And you define in that contract, what is it that you're selling? What is the revenue recognition rule for that? So those are configurable items in ARM, and we'll go deep into each of this later. What is the rule? What is the term for that contract, for that performance obligation, right? How do you then recognize that revenue? Is it a monthly? Is it upfront? Is it at the end? Is it when you deliver? And then it creates all this automation in the system, right? To your point, it creates those schedules for the life of the contract, so you can have visibility to your revenue, so it can be predictable, because the obligations are acquired when they're acquired, and then the revenue is scheduled based on the rules that are defined by the standards. It makes sure that you are recognizing the revenue automatically, so you don't have to do what we used to call late night gymnastics, beginning of the month or end of month, 3 days just trying to get all these spreadsheets into the system. It's doing it all for you, as long as you're tracking all that information correctly, and the business is following those rules, including, what happens if contracts get canceled? What happens if contracts get updated? What happens if there are change orders to contracts, more users, less users? All those rules are part and parcel of ARM, right? And it does make sure that you stay compliant with the business and
Right.
with the standards.
Agree. And in today's time, right, revenue recognition is not only about recording money, right? In
Right.
today's business, especially when it comes to SaaS industries, right, subscription based processes, right, or I can say the organizations who are selling bundled products and services, right? Uh,
Mhm. Yeah.
they face multi elements arrangements, like contract with hardware and softwares, right? They
Yeah.
face timing issues. Sometimes fees are collected upfront, right, but they are not able to process it properly on the monthly basis. uh,
Yeah.
there are so many compliance demands, right, under the ASC 606 and IFRS 15, which we have seen, right, you and me have seen so many times,
Yeah.
right, that
Yeah.
require recognizing revenue when obligations are satisfied, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
so, right.
And scalability, and scalability is key, right? Doing manual when you're a $10 million business or a $50 million business is not the same as doing manual when you're a $100 million business, a $200 million business. So what these tools like NetSuite ARM allow you to do is be scalable. And the other thing you mentioned, that it's interesting, Yush, that not a lot of companies think about this. And I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, but I've been doing this for a while and have learned along the way, like we all consultants do when we're working on our projects, and reading and listening to podcasts like this one,
Mm.
is that idea of bundling, right? That was so interesting to me the first time I heard it as a non-accountant. The fact that if you, and we do this a lot, right, ourselves at Crowe,
Mm.
right? When we and NetSuite does it a lot too. We sell software, we sell NetSuite, we sell our own IP, and we deliver that software, we deliver that IP, and sometimes we'll deliver that IP at no cost because we have the software subscription. But the standard says even if you sell it for free, there's some revenue that needs to be recognized to the services away from the software, right? So if you're a software company and you're valuing yourself based on your ARR, but you're giving a lot of free service to do that, your revenue for the ARR is less because part of that has to go to the software, to the services, sorry, to the actual delivery. And even though you're not charging for it, even though your customer is getting it for free. So very interesting concepts for companies that are looking to create different business models, like you said, right? Whether it's SaaS, whether it's construction, whether it's delivery over time of products, right? Whether it's just professional services like we do, lawyers, consultants, accountants like us. It hits everything, right? And we've seen, and you've seen, a lot of people do this in Excel with very, very complex Excel spreadsheets.
Right.
And what is the problem with the Excel spreadsheets? That finger something, you make a mistake, and then you have to spend hours and hours fixing it. And imagine the impact that can have on your financial statements. So tools like ARM allow you to not only automate that, but have controls that the system would provide in order to avoid those human errors.
Completely agree. And see, sometimes I'm so much surprised to see that people used to manage so many revenue rules, right? So many revenue rules in the Excel, right? But now when it comes to ARM, the good thing, the best thing I will say, it's about the predefined revenue rules, right? So the predefined revenue rules, what we have seen, right, in the business, that it really helps to automatically decide, right, how revenue should be allocated, how revenue should be recognized with the predefined rules based on the businesses, based on the different processes. For example, let's say $100,000 annual subscription, right? And it usually splits into $10,000 per month automatically, right? Based on the predefined rules. But when it comes to Excel, you need to have so many rules, you need to have so many formulas, right? Theoretical values, theoretical errors. Now, with this predefined rules in the ARM, it really helped to reduce the human interpretation errors and enforcing the proper accounting consistency.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't know about you. I think I'm really good at Excel, right? I love Excel. I think Excel is a really good tool.
Same here.
I don't know. Now with AI, sidetrack here for a little bit. Now with AI, which is part of ARM and NetSuite, right? AI is an important element. If they say Excel spreadsheets are going to go away, I don't know. A lot of accountants are going to be very confused. But, I don't know how I've seen Excel spreadsheets that blow my mind, that you see them hundreds and hundreds of lines, thousands of lines, tens of tabs, all related, all linked to each other. I can't imagine how many mistakes happen, with very smart people because it's Excel, right? So all those things you mentioned, the predefined rules, predefined fair market value, predefined, recognition period. It's like, like the opposite of what we've seen with fixed assets, right? I mean, the standard defines what you can do and what you cannot do, how long you can recognize something. Just like fixed assets, the standards recognize how long you can, amortize, right? It all affects financial statements. And listen, are things manipulated by within the rules? I mean, is any system going to catch anything that you're doing everything 100% by the book? No, right? But that's one of the things with ARM is not to be, it's not connected to the standard and checking every transaction, right? It's not real time. Maybe it'll get there sometime with AI, right? There'll be anomaly detection for, hey, you're saying this is a 12-month period and you recognized it over 8. But the thing is, it gives you auditable information within the system versus a journal entry that then you have to tie to an Excel spreadsheet that then you have to tie to a manual contract. It's all within NetSuite. You have the sales order, you have the revenue arrangement and plans that we'll talk about later, all the elements. So it's, and also to be frank, right? I wish in some cases, and this is where we come in as Crowe, that NetSuite and any other system gave you all the reports. You need all the reports to tie everything. There's a lot of good reporting. And it's still, there's still work to be done, right? But it automates the automatable part. It automates the things that you want the system to do by itself so you can spend more time on analysis, on compliance. and working with firms like us to create those reports to make you be able to validate that compliance automatically and fast, right? So it's, I don't remember how long ARM has been around, and it's been evolved over time. It's not hasn't been perfect for a long time, but it's improved a lot over the last 5 years, and more. And that's one of the reasons why NetSuite is so strong in the software space. Why NetSuite is so strong on the companies that go do IPOs, especially in the software, SaaS, fintech space, because all this plays ARM is so important. It's such an important part of they've been able to be IPO ready, right? That it's facilitated work for a lot of people.
Right. And you rightly said, and that's where the automation versus manual work differences comes into the picture, right? Uh, every contract, subscription, service delivery, these things require so many manual setups of formulas, right? Schedules, right, and so many tracking sheets. So definitely, there are chances to have so many of errors. But with ARM, right, this is
Yeah.
the tool which is automatically generates the revenue schedules, right? When a
Yeah.
contract is completely booked, no manual step needed in this process.
Yeah, no manual step needed in this process. Absolutely, you can, you're right. Once you have everything defined, if you have your rules defined for your business, if you have your revenue manager on top of everything can be automated. Everything can be put in a schedule, and you don't have to touch anything. You just have to go verify the numbers, right? Removing all those manual steps it's what a system like NetSuite with ARM can provide. Absolutely.
And you know what? Yesterday only, I was talking to one of the Crowe auditors, right, financial auditors, and he
Mm,
was telling me about the differences, right? Because now, as Crowe is also using NetSuite for the internal business processes,
mm,
so he was also telling me that earlier he used to face so many issues, right, to trace the formulas, to check the different version histories, right? He need to check all the different files. He need to make sure that all the things are compliance with ASC 606 and IFRS 15. And
mm.
for this process, definitely we need extra documentation. But now, since we have a built-in ARM module, right, with all the compliant rules and everything, so every recognition entry is logged and traceable back to the
Yeah,
originating transactions.
absolutely. Yeah, back to everything, right? It goes. There's all those from the journal entry to the plan, from the plan to the arrangement, from the arrangement to the element, to the sales order to the fulfillment. Everything's linked, right? And 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 auditable, right? That makes auditors really happy, right? And makes their job easier. So not only is it saving really it's not only saving time for the company on the revenue recognition process, it's also saving them money when they get audited because things are quicker for the auditors to audit because all the information is in the system. So it's and not only helps you be compliant but be more efficient, close your books faster, right? Because you don't have to go through thousands of spreadsheet lines to make sure that things were recognized. You don't have to correct prior periods. Just have to make sure that, to your point earlier, that the rules are set up correctly, that the processes are being followed, uh, that not only that not only the business knows it from an accounting perspective. We'll get into use cases later, but went through a project last year that they we set up all the rules correctly in the business for the recognition of the items, the setup for the items. What is the rule? What is the period? Is it straight line number of days? Is it straight line months? All those rules, but the sales side was not following all the processes. That were changing sales orders constantly, which changes the performance obligation. The fulfillment side was not recognizing the revenue in the system. In this month they were fulfilling the next day, so now it goes into the next month recognition because the rule says on fulfillment, even though it was one day. It's so important that it's not only you know the accounting team that's responsible for revenue, and that's one of the things that automation can do, right? The responsible when you have everything in the system, and we struggle with this in our clients sometimes struggle with this with projects, is that the system can't do everything for you,
Mm.
right? Even for something as not as simple, because it's not simple, but as automatable as revenue recognition, because that's the whole point. You still have to make sure that your sales order process is not constantly changing, because it's going to create headaches on your obligations. That the fulfillments are happening at the right time, and that the people are using the system. Because all those things now directly impact revenue without the hand of a controller or an accountant fixing it in Excel. It goes straight into the system. It's a blessing, but if you don't manage it properly, it can become, a little bit of a nightmare. And we'll talk about that. What are the proper ways of managing revenue? What are the steps that NetSuite follows with ARM? What are the different transaction types, record types? Because I know in prior engagements, when companies don't have an ASC 606 or IFRS 15 trained revenue manager, they struggle with ARM, because it adds steps to, they struggle, and they should have a revenue manager because revenue is important, but they think it can be done by an accountant. Conceptually it can, but you have to understand the different steps of the process, because at the end, it's following the steps that the standard prescribes.
Right, agree. And I would really would love to talk about the forecasting process also, right? The forecasting of ARM, so dynamic, right? So dynamic. You can amend the contracts like anything when it comes to different type of business process. So next time, Ale, right? I would like to meet you again. And we will be going one step further. We will be talking about the real stories of business scaling the beyond spreadsheets, right? And how companies are using the automation, not just to stay compliant, but to unlock the growth as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll be talking about that next.